A very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to today's edition of the Evening Review. My name is Nangula Uaandja, your host. Tonight on the show, we are welcoming back the Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, that is Nangula Uaandja, just to fill us in on the latest regarding the board's work in attracting investment to Namibia and related mandates. Nangula, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Toivo, and good evening to you.
Wonderful. Yes, so I know it's still early days, but I think given the times that we are in, there isn't really time to say it's early days. How is everything going at the board?
Thank you very much, Toivo. Yes, mixed kind of development and mixed feelings.
Yeah.
There's the good news always, and of course there's always the news of saying what can be happening differently. So yes, we have been at it for more than a year now. The whole team, we assembled together on April last year, so we have passed April. It has been an exciting year. It has been a year of having a great team. I think if there's anything that we can say, what have we achieved in the 12 months of existence or 12 plus months? It's really assembling an excellent group of people that are energetic, that are driven, and whose purpose is really to help the economic development of Namibia. That is the number one. The number two is, what are we seeing? Of course, we know that our mandate is, we have experienced that the economy of our country has experienced challenges for about 5 years. That started around about 2015 and 2016. By the time COVID came here, we were already having challenges. And we know, like you have said, is we do not have time. So, and that's why it's a kind of a bit of a challenging situation, because normally you set up an institution and then you have all your policies and everything, and then you start implementing. But we came to a place where you have got a board and there's a lot of expectation, there's a lot of need, there is a lot of demand, and therefore the point of saying, the luxury of sitting down and saying, let me first put out every structure before I can answer your questions, we did not have that one. And therefore we had to do, I think, what the governor of the Bank of Namibia always called the sandbox experience. So how do we kind of live in a live experiment, making sure that we are putting in place our processes, but at the same time, we are doing what we were mandated to do. And that is what we have been doing. And when you do that, of course, when you reflect, there's a lot that you will achieve, but there's also mistakes that you make, because you are in an experiment. An experiment is learning, and in learning is where you fail and you say, okay, you cannot do it that way, but of course you need to make sure that the impact of your mistakes are not catastrophic, if one can put it that way. So looking at that is, what have we learned? We have learned, of course, what we have always known, that Namibia is a great country. Our political stability, our geographic location, our rule of law, our safety, and even our young population that is educated is an attractive asset. We have got natural resources, we've got the sun, the moon, the sun, the wind, the ocean, large tracts of land. Those are resources, and therefore, as an investment promotion and development board, we do have a case to tell. That is good news. So then the second news is, how do you package it? So the first one is, yes, there's something to tell, there's a case to tell, Namibia is a case to tell. Now we need to package that case, and we have been working on the packaging. The second one that we have learned is, there are actually many people that are interested in investing in Namibia and that we can speak to. And of course, one of the items that brought us here is, people sitting there and saying, I already know where to go, and I'm telling them, there are actually people that we are meeting, and as much as they know Namibia and they can come and tour, it's not, Namibia is not on their radar for investment. And you kind of need to nudge them and say, please put us on the radar. And those are the efforts. So yes, I believe we have assembled a great team. I believe Namibia is a great destination for investment. I believe there is many people that we can attract to Namibia. But yes, I believe that there is challenges that we have in terms of our competitiveness, our ease of doing business, and we need to correct that one at the same time that we're attracting investment.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, a month ago, you and I, we wrote an editorial, the Namibian Sun, where we said that you know, because we feel that there's a lot of, you know, everybody is leaving the country under the pretext of, you know, looking for investments. The president, the executives of your board, ministers, and we were just making a point that, you know, why don't we allow, for example, the board, which is mandated to do this, to be at the forefront of these things, and of course without cutting out everybody, but we just felt that there was a lot of movement, outward movement of our leaders leaving the country when we feel that there's so much to be done at home also. And you felt that you needed to contextualize that. If you can do it for me.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think when you look at investment and investment promotion, so somebody who's an expert actually, who has worked in the environment for many years and now is consulting, made a comment to us recently, saying that if you want, for example, to attract, let's say you want to attract 10 in investment, or let's say you want to have what we call lead generation, tangible leads that you know, these specific leads have got a possibility of converting, and even though they've got a possibility of converting, the rate of conversion can be as low as 10%. So if you want to even just have, let's say, 100 leads that have got a 10% chances of conversion, then you need to have something like 1,200 conversations. So that is a lot of conversations. So investments, normally it's like investors, it's not like, investors don't make their decision in one day. Yeah. And what we are seeing today is that some of the investments that are close to, let's say, closure and financial investment decision, some of those ones are actually some that we found on the table, and they will tell you that we have been here for many years, and what we did to help them was to kind of do that final push, because there was something which was not easy for doing business, and we needed to help them push. But they have been at it for 24 months, for 5 years, and so forth. And it is because it is a relationship of trust that you need to build. So number one, you need to kind of tell people Namibia exists and you can actually consider them. South Africa is not the only place where you can invest, or other countries and so forth. That is the first one. And then they say, okay, Namibia, what have you got to offer? And then you have a kind of a first conversation. And then some of them, like now, you get surprised and people still ask you, what about safety? So for example, I was last week in India, and I'm talking to India about, to business people in India about investing in Namibia, and then they say, yeah, but the challenge in Africa is always safety. And we know that that is the challenge, because somebody who sits outside Africa, sometimes they have got this view, Africa's safety, a coup can come any minute, and you have to contextualize and say, sorry, Namibia, this is Namibia. And this is the case of Namibia. Yes, we are part of Africa, but we are Namibia. Just like every country. So please do not categorize everybody and say, you guys are. There is Namibia, there is South Africa, there is Botswana. We are countries, and therefore evaluate every country on the merit of that particular country. And so you need to have those conversations. After that conversation, then they say, okay, fine, it sounds like Namibia is a good place. I will come and visit. Then they come and visit. And then after that, you have a conversation, and they say, okay, what about this? What about that? A few months later, then they decide, okay, I think I will invest. Then they say, okay, what do I invest in? And then you start talking about permits, and it takes another time. So with that one, then what you need to do as a investment promotion and development board, you have to have what we call a pipeline of projects. So we are creating a pipeline of many projects so that we can see, number one, do not put your bread on one water, spread it on many waters, because you do not know which one will come. So if we only target one or two, whether it is one market or one company, and it doesn't go off, because it's just like anything else that you do, it might go off on, it might not go on. So you have to target quite a number and increase your chances of conversion. So you have now to say, okay, let us create a pipeline of project. Now we create a pipeline of project, and in that pipeline of project, you have to kind of continuously feed it. Because if you don't continuously feed it, then when the ones are converted and the other ones are out, then you run out of investment. So that is the effort. And then you come to, okay, why do we need leaders to be part of that? So normally we go with leaders for two reasons. The number one, for example, let's start, for example, if you're sitting at the board, Why will it be Nangula and not just any of our staff members? So if you want, who is the decision maker in the organization? The decision maker are the top people in the organization. And those decision maker, if you send a junior person to them, they will think you are not serious. So you kind of need to send somebody who is more senior. Yeah. And the more senior the person is, the more accepted they are, the more acceptable to the investor they have. And what we have found out and what we are finding out is people respect a minister and people respect a president. So we go to some doors and I knock on that door and I don't get somebody to open. But if I arrange a breakfast and I say, we are having a breakfast, our president will be here, and I said it under the name of the president, guess how many people will come? So for me to start the conversation, many times then I need the president or the minister to open. And that is what happened in Davos, and I can talk to you a little bit later on what happened in Davos to just help us learn of saying, that is the conversation. So we had quite a number of events. The 1 or 2 events that were sold out are the ones that were led by the president. So the president had one event and another breakfast. Those were sold out. The Namibian house were full. The online was full because people want to hear. Let us listen to the president. Apparently, the CEO or anybody else from the board, yes, they want to listen to you, but you are not the first person they want to listen to. So I think those are the kind, so many times what we do then is leverage. Where will the president be and how can we be part of where the president is so that we can talk to investors in that and use that part to kickstart of those conversations.
Wonderful. We go for a quick break and return for second half.
So highly what I'm thinking, it's a felony for sure. Don't stop, a little closer, let our rhythm shake the floor. Don't stop, take it lower, every cactus is there.
We continue our conversation with Nangula Uaandja. Now, Nangula, I just there's something that I have here. So, Deloitte, they have published their 2022 Africa Investment Attractiveness Index, and Namibia is not in the top 10. That is quite an indictment on your duties as a board, and of course the collective as a government. What do you make of this assessment?
Look, let's look at it and let's start with where the ease of doing business is in Namibia. So one thing when the president appointed me is we must improve Namibia's competitiveness and we must improve Namibia's ease of doing business. Globally on the ease of doing business, we are ranked 104. Now, being ranked 104, later, of course, the World Bank came and said, no, that report is not true because they did ABCD. But we cannot say that that report is not correct. Yeah. So what we need to acknowledge is Namibia, and I need to acknowledge, unfortunately, it is not easy to do business in Namibia. Yeah. And that makes our attractiveness not there. So it's 2 things that are making us unattractive at this stage. Number 1, we do have a policy gap. Policy gap, you understand that in terms of investment promotion, facilitation, and so forth, the law we are using is the Foreign Investment Law of 1990. The world has moved on. We have got the Namibia Investment Promotion Act that came in place. We are working on it. It's still taking a bit of time, but the point is government is committed, but there's a gap. The number 2, you remember we had the EPZ that has been replaced, but we are now working on the special economic zone, but it's not in place, which means other countries have got incentives. Namibia does not have incentives. And then number 3, there is, for example, the countries talk about the easiness of getting permit that we are busy working on with Home Affairs. And when it comes to that one is other countries have got what we call one-stop center. One-stop center is where an investor goes and get all the services at one place, whether it is physical and even they offer e-services. We do not have those. So that is really the one thing is, one is a policy gap, And then the second one is a service gap. So because we are still a government that is in a paper environment, it takes long for things to move. And when you file something that is paper, you get time to look for it. And that's why then the board is here to try and say, how do we facilitate service so that if you are an investor that is registered with the board, then we can help you that you can put your request with us. And when it is at a certain ministry, then we will be following up with those ministries so that we can make sure that it's on somebody's radar. And therefore, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, no, they are wrong and whatever. I think they have got a point. And therefore, the challenge that we have as an investment promotion and development board is, what can we do? And I'm not even going to tell you, no, it depends on where we are, and I'm still to read the report in detail. I cannot say, okay, no, next year we'll be in the top 10. But definitely, our aim is to be in the top 2. But it is a journey that we need to get there. But that journey, we cannot jump from 515 to 2. We need to say next year, if we are this year at 15, next year we definitely have to be at a point higher than 15 and so forth.
Yeah, I hear you. But isn't it frustrating, Nangula, also that because the ease of doing business, this issue has been on our table for a very, very long time. I remember maybe 2016, maybe 2017. I remember going to the Ministry of Trade where they had visited some experts from Singapore. And they explained it nicely to say, look, let's have a one-stop shop, like you mentioned. Your certificate from Social Security Commission, your Home Affairs documents, everything in one pot, and you can get them at one physical office or whatever, instead of running between offices and stuff like that. Is it frustrating that things like this, your board is a state board, the state is in charge of policy, why does it take so long to just simply get things right? And we can't talk about, 5 years later, we are still talking about ease of doing business. What is so difficult?
Yeah. No, I think you are right, and probably that is why, yes, the word is frustration that you are using, but I think that is what the president has realized. I think the president in his second term, he says, okay, I've promised Namibian prosperity. It is not here. We need a private sector-led growth. We need investment. They are not happening, and our competitiveness apparently is not working, and our ease of doing business is not there. Guess what? I'm going to establish a board, and it's coming to report directly to me, and I want to know what is happening, and I'm going to invite the CEO of that board to sit with us in cabinet to understand what is happening and to communicate to us. And I think that was the first step, which is a major step in the right direction. The second step now is, now that you, board Nangula, have got this access, what are you doing with it? And that what are you doing with it? Number one, there's 2 levels that one has to understand and that I'm learning. Number one, it's the political side and the political will. And we have done that one. The president has done his part. We are now working with the ministers who, I believe, as far as I'm concerned, the ministers are aligned. They give their support. The moment I call a minister and say we need ABCD, just this morning we were at the office of the Prime Minister because there's a project that we need to kick off and it is having some delays, and the Prime Minister called and we had a meeting and I get that support. Now you've got below in the office, and now you've got officials, and there's 100,000 of them. And now you need first to align every one of that. Do you know what we call change management? Change management, you cannot just order people all of a sudden. So I think the good news is, are you seeing a change? Yes, I'm seeing a change. Is it as fast as you would like it to be? No. I wish it would be faster. Because there is still few people that are you sure it will work? And then there is a resistance to change. It's a human nature. So it is not happening as fast as I would like, but it is moving.
Yes. There are 2 more possible stumbling blocks that I want your comment on. One is the NIF bill. People saying, investors are playing a wait-and-see game, waiting to see what will be adopted eventually, and whether it's business friendly or investment friendly. And also that itself has been on the table for a long time, and I don't know what is taking too long. So there's a lot of investors that are apparently afraid to commit until there's clarity on what will be the law. That is one thing. The second one is we've seen also now, I mean, you spoke about having been in India last week. Asian investors, there's a lot of tension. Maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe it's not tension, but there's a bit of discontent in Namibia. People thinking that, that foreign investors, especially those from Asia, are not complying with the laws. There's an element of xenophobic attacks targeted against Asian investors. Are these things also now being a challenge to your work in attracting investment?
So that is the two questions you have asked. NIF.
Yes.
I know Namibians like NIF. Foreign investors don't give me grief about NIF. I will be honest with you. So last week, my team presented to the Cabinet Committee on Trade and Economic Development, saying that these are our top 10 projects. If we are to pass this top 10 project, this is investments that will flow and so forth. And for this top 10 project, there is bottlenecks. We have identified a bottleneck for each one of them, and we have assigned a ministry to each one of those bottlenecks, because we want the Cabinet Committee to help us to speak to the ministry so that they can give support. On those, none of them has got NIF as one of the stumbling blocks. So I'm not saying it is not a stumbling block, but at this stage, it's not a deal maker.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you are told as an investor that there's a possibility that some Namibians will be, that you'll be compelled to cede some of your shares.
No, I think that is the point.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever said that.
Yeah.
And when I tell investors that, and that is how Namibians understand it, the NIF draft, that is the original version said that. And then we all said, no, it's not going to work. And the new version came, and it does not have that one. And the president made a statement, we will not compel. We will encourage, we will not compel. And I think that is the right message that we need to share and communicate. What I hear from foreign investors is wherever they do business, there is some form of required localization. So to them, a requirement of a type of NIF is not something new. It is something that common with saying wherever you go, there is some form of localization. It's about how it gets to be implemented. But I think what they have mostly realized is a Namibian government is friendly, and there is not really a time that they have made a law that is saying the business has said it, and they say, you know what, let's do it. There were, for example, non-deductibility of royalties on mining that came. And when the new Minister of Finance came, he said, okay, he has listened to the mining industry, scrap it. So they listen, and I think they are taking it, and they are trusting government in terms of saying, government, they said, yes, there is a NIF, it is coming, we are working because we are consulting, and on that consultation, there will not be a compelling for you to give up your shares. And I think to me is the investors that I'm engaging with, they are comfortable, and they have what they are asking me. It's more other things that we can address than that one.
Yeah.
On your second question,
xenophobia, perceived cases.
I think the first thing that we need to know the difference between an investor and a trader. We have got a lot of traders in Namibia. We are not promoting traders, we are promoting investment. And I think that is the huge difference. And sometimes the feeling that Namibians have towards the influx of traders into Namibia, I share that feeling. I understand that feeling. I know what it is doing to our people who were in that industry and so forth. And therefore, if I go, whether it is to Europe, whether it is to Asia, whether it is to Americas, whether it is to the rest of Africa, to talk about investment promotion, one thing I tell people is I am not here to promote you. If you want to import things into Namibia, or you want to come and sell us stuff that is made somewhere else and whatever, I'm sorry, I'm not here for you. I'm here for people that are coming to invest in Namibia. And that message is clear. I think that is one. The other one that we need to do as Namibians is, instead of allowing other people to drive the investment strategy, like they come, we need to drive our own strategy. And that is why we have identified our diversification. Say, here are the sectors we want to promote, and therefore when we go, we know, for example, when I went to India, we sat and we said, okay, if we said this meeting was a success, what are the 1, 2, 3 things? And we said, India is good in innovation. So when we go there, we want to focus on innovation. India is good in technology. When we go there, so the DPM, the Deputy Prime Minister, who I was part with, she kind of looked at it and said, Nangula, let's sit down. What do we want to get from India? So we talked about and agreed. And she said healthcare. Yes, healthcare. India is good in healthcare. Pharmaceuticals. They were one of the first countries to make vaccine. So when we went there, we look at it and say, India, this is what they're good at. And when we are going to speak to India, here are the type of people we want to speak to. And that is how we engage the countries that we want to. So that's why we are not sitting here and waiting who is coming, because maybe the one that is coming is the one who is not in part of our diversification strategy.
Yeah.
We want to go and look for the ones that we are driving ourselves based on what we want to do to meet our national priorities.
Wonderful. Nangula, I wish we had more time, because I wanted us to talk about Davos and all these other things, but time is up now. We must make time for the continuation of this exciting conversation, but otherwise, thank you for coming.
No, it's great to be here. I promise I'm available to talk about Davos.
Yeah.
Let's catch up in the next week or two.
Wonderful.
Yes.
That is Nangula Uaandja. She's the CEO of the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, speaking to us about the latest at the board. Thank you for watching.